Hello to everyone. This is Ismail Haznedar from Gain Global. I'm addressing you from Istanbul, from Turkey. Welcome to our webinar session. And today we will be talking about a very special project and a topic about Japan. I have here a guest from Norway, Alma Karabek. Alma, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to this very, very interesting series of talks.
I'm thankful. I see you were following a couple of sessions as well prior to this webinar. I thank you for your contribution and support. Prior to start our session, I would like to greet our audience or participants. I thank for them for their supports and as well as for being here today with us. You will have chance to introduce yourself. You may use the chat room available. Please share from where you join, what are your opinions about the topic and as well as your contribution. During the session or at the end of the session also we will have some time to address your questions to Alma Karabek. You may put that one to ask a question part. Please feel free to put your questions and we may receive the answer from Alma. Let me make a brief introduction. Alma Karabek is an innovation advisor and a board member of a couple of organizations, a couple of companies. We met through JCI Network, Junior Chamber International Network, served as in JCI as a local president, then Secretary General and National President of JCI Norway. Later on served as a counselor for JCI European Development Council and appointed in JCI Partnership Committee, working for SDGs. There was a event we were hosting in New York, Global Partnership Summit, and she had the responsibility to present the findings regarding this topic. Has an extensive international experience with innovation ecosystem, mainly in Russia, Western Balkans, Baltic states, Ukraine, Moldova. You are originally from Bosnia, correct?
Yes,
correct me.
Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Bosnia and Herzegovina, and has a background in political science, organizational sociology, with a master's degree from Norway and MPA from Denmark. As I mentioned, she's a board member of several companies. I thank you once more, Alma, for being here with us. How is the life nowadays? I would like to turn to you and have a small chat regarding how you face with the current situation nowadays with the current COVID-19 pandemic. How is life in Norway?
Yes, of course, again, thank you very much, Ismail, for inviting me to this session, and greetings to all the audience, everybody watching. And of course, the situation in Norway is not as bad as in very many other European countries, since this country is sparsely populated, especially in the north. So that we can say is advantage in this case. But of course, we are also very much concerned. We also had our form of lockdown since 12th of March. The society is gradually opening up. I can say that we did not have a very strict lockdown because we were always allowed to go on the street. So I think that is one of the major differences that we can see in very many other countries where people were not allowed to go outside. So from that perspective, we were...
At least it helped to somehow to balance more maybe with the situation.
Yes, that is true. And from economic perspective, I can say that the economy in Norway has also suffered from this crisis, of course, as every other country. There is something called oil fund that we have in Norway, and that has fortunately helped a lot, as the government has prepared certain so-called crisis packages so that the companies that suffered the most could receive certain support. So this is a very good opportunity, I can say, for the companies.
During my visit to Norway in 2015, I remember we had a chance to talk regarding this, the future fund of the strategy of the Norway. I was really impressed. It was like 5 years ago that I was discovering this fund case. As I understand, Norway was putting the oil income to the fund for future generation, and just investing or spending small amount of that for daily operations. And now we see that in these circumstances, this kind of reserve helps a lot for sustaining the nation, correct?
Yes, that is true. The government has used a quite substantial amount to help all those companies, in particular small and medium companies in Norway, as very many companies in Norway belong to this category, small and medium business. And of course, we also have a lot of companies in oil and gas sector. The oil prices have unfortunately gone down, which is not good for our side. And but also a lot of companies in tourist industry. We have Northern Lights, we have Midnight Summer.
That's true.
Midnight sun in summertime, and of course this has attracted quite a lot of tourists. Then there are a lot of fjords in Norway, and there is a coastal tourism industry with very many cruisers and very many tourists visiting during the summertime. This year, unfortunately, that is most likely not going to happen because the borders will remain closed until 20th of August for all those who do not have residence permit or working permit in Norway. As for the moment, afterwards, they will maybe reconsider. But it is, of course, this oil fund is really, really helpful at the moment. And a lot of municipalities and counties are receiving some support that they can give further to small and medium companies. And this is, I'd say, one positive moment in this crisis.
Thank you for this brief and update. Really appreciate. So this is a good learning experience as well. So as a nation, as well as companies and individuals, we may work for future funding options. So we may start maybe to initiate our own funds in order to sustain during the turbulent times. And this is a great example that we may exercise and learn from it.
Yes, true. We have to look forward. We have to look to the future.
I see friends from different areas of the world. First of all, we have Secretary General Kevin Hinn. I thank you for joining and for your support. I saw as well Kevin Hintz, who is here and joins from Barbados. Thank you, Kevin, also for being part of this session. So Alma, you have followers from different areas of the world, as you see, from America, from Europe, from Africa and Asia. And the topic is Japan. So we will be talking for a very special topic, the projects in Japan, Japanese startup ecosystem and the female entrepreneurship. You co-founded the project with JCI local president Mia Anfinsen. And we had an interview, as you will be mentioning, in Japan. We did that one. And this was a good opportunity for me to understand the future and your intention about the future of the project. You stepped forward. You made a couple of things. And now this year, 2020, World Congress of Junior Chamber International is going to be held in Japan. So this is a very relevant topic in terms of entrepreneurship as well as in terms of having the projects about Japan and also to have that one about female entrepreneurship. So therefore it's very attractive. I would like to start with to hear a brief about the purpose of the project and how you initiated that one, what was the need for that. And later on, we may move forward with how you step up and what is the current state and situation.
Yes, thank you very much. And again, greetings to everybody watching, our dear friends and everyone interested in this project. As Ismail has introduced, the purpose of the project is that we want to learn more about Japanese startup ecosystem, as both Mia Anfinsen and I, that we are both working on this project. We have been in Japan before, and we wanted to explore more of the country and also of this specific topic on innovation system. So we were curious to find out how are companies in Japan establishing themselves. Do they receive a lot of governmental support? Do they basically depend upon themselves, or are they private networks? So how does it really function? And of course, we want to see the differences between European innovation system and Japanese innovation system. In the end, the main goal of the project would be to make more collaboration between, first of all, Norway and Japan. I can say that the reason why we are both interested in this is that during my education, I did study Japanese political and economic system, and this had made me very curious about how do things function in Japan.
So and one of your expertise is then Japan, correct, in that perspective?
Yeah, to some extent, yes. And then during the working experience, we both worked connected to startups. And then since we knew that Japan is hosting very many conferences and congresses, that was like a perfect opportunity to go there and conduct a project in addition. So this is how the whole idea came up.
And there are two phases of the project. So you finished the phase 1, and now 2020 will be phase 2. You have a brief presentation, I think, about that. If you wish, we may continue with that, and then I will be asking to hear about what was the accomplishment in phase 1 and what is the aim in phase 2.
Yes, of course. I can show the screen. There it is. Yes. So what I wanted to show, I wanted to start with something very, very pleasant. And it is a throwback to our very first project in Japan. And this project found a place because we had a very general support from Mr. Yohei Sasakawa, who has a Sasakawa Foundation that supported our projects. And that person that you can see also on the picture, he is the chairperson of Nihon Foundation that we, during the Congress in Japan in 2015, we JCI signed a collaboration agreement with. And for everybody who is looking forward to going to Japan and wonder what does it look like, you are very welcome to watch a movie that we actually produced for people, for a general audience as well, to learn more about JCI, what it is all about. Thank you very much, Ismail, for being available to conduct an interview and explain that. And then also about Japanese culture and what is actually going on at the World Congress. So a little bit, some scenes from Japan Night and so on. So I welcome you to watch.
This is available in YouTube, correct? I'll be sharing the link as well.
Correct. It is available on YouTube. And you can also find, I think also our final report is available on ISU. It is publicly available in any case. For everybody who would like to read, please approach me. I think I left also my email in the beginning of this chat.
Yes, perfect.
So, and this is, as I started with, this has inspired us to go further and to look into, let's say, a more serious topics on Japanese ecosystem. So
prior to that, I would like to hear about some tips that you discovered during that period regarding the culture, how you may brief that part. What were your findings?
Yes. So what when we came to Japan, we came with a hypothesis. How does Japanese innovation system look like? And in order to really find out, we conducted several interviews. We did company visits. We visited several business incubators supported by the government, private initiative, and universities as well. And we have seen that the law in Japan is somewhat, it functions somewhat differently than what we can see in Europe. And I can tell you, I can give you the conclusion right away. And then I will elaborate more on the details that we have found out during our study. This project can be categorized more as a research project, but with the aim that it will lead to more collaboration between Norway and Japan, and also other countries as well, because we have actually discovered very many other interesting global networks, and that startups from those two countries could start closer collaboration, because this is still not on the desirable level. And we have, of course, also read, we did the desk research, and we have read a lot about what Prime Minister Abe in Japan really wants to do with his strategy called Innovation 25.
Okay.
And the conclusion is that where in very many European countries, including Norway, the government is supporting entrepreneurs that are in the country, because of course it is necessary to find entrepreneurs when they get the idea, to support the idea, and then hopefully the company, the startup, will become successful on the national market, and then as very many also want to go global and export. This is a very, let's say, desirable scenario. In Japan, there is, of course, the same strategy to become economically a global power. And Japan is a very, very important country, politically and economically. But they also have an approach that it doesn't necessarily mean that the global talent is only in Japan, because a global talent, he can be anywhere else. So what is really, really important is to boost the economy, also inviting foreign entrepreneurs. And there are very many incubators also in Japan that are originally, they started in other countries, but then they moved to Japan and they provide their services there. And there are also special zones in Japan where foreign entrepreneurs can enter. There are some special working permits and visa permits as well. So it is not so difficult. If the entrepreneur has the right idea, it is not so difficult to enter. So this is what we were maybe a little bit surprised to hear, because we are used to another system in Europe, let's say like that. And then
how you would compare that one with Europe, for example, when you compare, like what are the advantages or the easy way of doing business in that perspective? What is the attraction when you compare with Europe?
Yes. We were looking mostly how the things are in Norway, because this is the well-known market. And then we also had several interviews with others who are conducting similar studies in the United Kingdom and France, just to compare the systems. And then we have came to this conclusion that where Japan is very much, let's say, open and inviting global talents from all over the world who can contribute to boost Japanese economy, the other countries in Europe are much more, let's say, careful with this approach. Maybe because of the public opinion. How would it look like if we are, let's say, opening our systems and our financial support, establishing such special zones for entrepreneurs? This was a very interesting approach. And then we discussed these findings with the Japanese. And then they were a little bit surprised that we came to this conclusion, as they did not perceive the country as being so open, because traditionally it has been conservative. But then we see that there is this shift in when it comes to entrepreneurship. And then we also, when we were approaching entrepreneurs in Tokyo, and I have to say that we see the concentration of entrepreneurs in Tokyo. And then we have two different groups. The group that is, let's say, international, and then we have homogeneous, only Japanese group. And of course, for us, it was not so easy to blend into that group. So we were having more contact with this internationally oriented. Yes. And then it is also interesting, how do they obtain venture capital? That they have this special mechanism for that. And then we also discovered that there are so many private initiatives, so that this waiting for the government to find a special incentive is, it's not so, they're not so dependent on it, as very many entrepreneurs practically take their case into their own hands. And then we also see that there are very many private initiatives. For instance, a reason why we wanted to look more into this female entrepreneurship part is because we have seen that there are very many ladies who actually establish their own networks, and they also establish their own co-working spaces, not relying on necessarily only on the support from the government. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a governmental initiative to do so.
So you mean they are more focused to have a self-sustaining entities? Sure, there are supports, but mainly they focus to build by themselves with the support of maybe the community that they are involved, as you mentioned, through the incubation centers or co-working spaces.
Yes, from what we have, at least what we have experienced, is that there are quite many who are actually receiving this support from private initiatives. So not necessarily only from the government. And this is somewhat different from what we can see here.
You mentioned something important, the finding that surprised also the Japanese friends, as you said. There is I may say, like a prejudice that Japanese culture is conservative and closed, as well as the female are not much involved in the business life or the leadership or management life. Also, the facts, the numbers supports this situation. But from your finding, we can say that there is a shift, a change where the woman is more involved in entrepreneurship cycle. That they are more building self-sustaining entities, and also the Japanese culture is welcoming the talent especially if you are initiating something new or if you are in startup ecosystem. Is there a pure focus there regarding the areas, or is it a general invitation in terms of sector or some specialty? Do you have any finding regarding that side?
Yes, it actually, what we also discovered is that we were expecting to see very many female entrepreneurs in the so-called female sectors. Like there are very many businesses established by females in the service sector and so on. And then we have actually found a really, really good example where with a female founder and CEO of a company that is dealing with cyber technology.
Okay.
And she is also functioning as influencer. Maybe I may even say somewhat to some extent as a mentor, and does frequently visit congresses and conferences to speak about this. So this has been a very pleasant discovery to find out that it's not necessarily only that we find females in the so-called female sectors, but that also female entrepreneurs who really want to do something do not sit and wait for support, but that they are not so conservative as we might think, but that they are really strong females who do this gender empowering, and who start up their own businesses and receive a substantial support when they are being recognized for their talent and for what they do.
Meanwhile, I think Kyoko shared a news. Good news is Bank of Japan now has female executive from Japan Times. This is really great. I thank you for this news as well. So there is a shift, as you mentioned, in two perspectives. And now you are in phase 2. So how this phase 2 will move forward, and what is your expectation from the second phase of the project?
Yes, so now we are in phase 2. That project has again been approved to continue looking specifically into the mechanisms behind female entrepreneurship. So we have been accepted to 3 different research networks where we want to disseminate the knowledge that we have accumulated so far. And then, of course, we need to come to Japan to conduct all the other interviews, to do the study field work, attend all the events and so on. And for the moment, we don't know when that can happen. Of course, we are all very excited about updates that will come. So we follow that. And when we do arrive to Japan, then we will visit several networks that we have discovered from our previous visits to Japan. Very interesting networks for female entrepreneurs, also privately started, with really very many interesting company profiles, and also not necessarily only Japanese, but also very many females who arrive to Japan and start their own business.
Can you share some examples as well? Because I really believe it's important when someone wants to initiate something, with whom to contact, or what are these places where they have to start with?
Yes, well, of course, we will all share the findings in our reports and so on. But so far, I can mention one network that that I've been following, and it is a Startup Lady in Tokyo. And again, we see that in Tokyo, and then yes, it's a few Japan. I also attended. Thank you very much, Kyoka-san, for sharing all this information. And what we also have seen in our previous visits, and also now during this desk research, is that the concentration is in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also one interesting part of the project, that we would like to look into how does Japan conduct its district politics. Like, what is the policy for stimulating entrepreneurship in the district area?
Mm-hmm.
We see, not necessarily only in Tokyo, we see also that like in big cities, like in Osaka, the university is working on this, supporting entrepreneurship. And during our study and visit to Kagoshima, we have seen that the landscape there is, when it comes to entrepreneurship, is somewhat different. Of course, obviously, there are huge differences between Tokyo and other places in Japan. But we would also like to look closely into what is the government doing to support entrepreneurship in other parts of the country, because it is somewhat also natural that very many entrepreneurs can start a business in Tokyo even without the governmental support.
So if we mention the cities, which are like the primary cities, you mentioned Tokyo, Osaka, other cities that you may see are fast moving, let's say, in startup ecosystem. Do you have any other cities that you may share?
For the moment, we are focused on Tokyo.
On Tokyo, yeah.
Yes, as also Yokohama, that is arranging the crossroad to innovation, would be also very interesting to look into, and it's not far away. As for the moment, we focus on the major cities.
And in terms of the World Congress of Junior Chamber International, do you have any plan, any presentation for events?
We are in contact.
Hopefully we will be there. Yeah, so
hopefully, yes, we will be there, and we have a very good contact with JCA Tokyo, especially, and big ratings for them. They were really, really helpful when we were there previously with the first phase of our project, both JCA Tokyo and JCA Japan, and of course JCA Kagoshima. So big thanks to them. So yes, we are in a contact, and I know that the name itself, the Crossroad to Innovation, fits perfectly in our project. And there's also another element of this, and female entrepreneurship is also about gender equality. So we are focused on looking into how does Japan meet this requirement of achieving Sustainable Development Goal number 5. That would be integrated part of the project as well.
This is really important. One of my questions was going to be about how it contributes to the Sustainable Development Goals. From Kanazawa as well in 2015, we saw that there is a big commitment of the team there to contribute to SDGs 2030 global goals. And we see that this is one very relevant site, especially for contribution, equality, as well as the economic development. So do you have any findings regarding this site, or you will be working for that?
We will be working on that.
Yeah,
so okay. Yes, and we also will be looking into, we know that there are Japanese scholars and professors who are also looking into the topic of female entrepreneurship and have conducted other comparative studies with other countries. And we really hope that our work can contribute to further investigation and development of this important topic.
And lastly, I would like to ask as well, is there a way we can contribute to your study, or the audience that watch now or later on that will follow you? Is there a way they may contribute?
Yes, of course. And I already see a lot of comments. Thank you very much, Kyoka-san, for this fantastic. I already came in contact with some of them, so thank you really for this fantastic information. And of course, everybody who knows a female entrepreneur that we can interview during our stay in Japan is very welcome to let us know, or to send us articles or any information they have about this topic. And the same goes the other way around. If we can help anyhow with this project, Mia and I would both be happy to share our information, to disseminate our knowledge about the first phase of the project on Japanese startup ecosystem, and of course in female entrepreneurship as well. So please do reach out to us. We are always welcome. We are always glad to help.
This is really good. I'm sure during the process, during this period as well, with the support of the situation and condition, you'll have chance to visit and make your meetings. Do you think if the digital tools may help with preparation during this period, or are you using digital tools to move forward?
Yes, we have, and I have already attended several events taking place in Japan for female entrepreneurs. And I think this is also a good opportunity for us to think, how do we enlarge our network now that we cannot approach people physically? But we can use, as you mentioned, very many digital tools. Digital communication is also a form of communication. And I have actually been quite lucky, perhaps, to come in contact with so many interesting people in Japan and also around the world, because there are other people who are doing studies on female entrepreneurship. And it's always important to connect. And then we get new ideas from this, like how do we connect other countries to make this project even bigger? So we will look into that as well.
Meanwhile, we may share the report and the video with our network as well in Gain Global. So far, we see that there are more than 1,000 participants from more than 40 countries. They may have a way to contribute, or they may find a way to support you. As well as I see Kevin Hinesji, Secretary General, also shared that has a good contacts with female entrepreneurs in Japan. So you will have that support, I believe, to move forward with this great project.
Fantastic.
I'll be glad to hear your final remarks and recommendations from all this project cycle that you faced. It's really important for all of us to initiate something, especially to initiate based on the needs. Entrepreneurship starts always with starting. So we start according the need or to solve any problem. So you have a project for long-term running program. Now it's fifth year, and you are in phase 2. Maybe to hear some tips about the experience that you faced so far, how you started, and what were some challenges, how you overcome these things, how you keep the project running for long-term period. This will be really great recommendation for our audience as well.
Yes, thank you. When it comes to this particular project on Japanese startup ecosystem, it started in 2018. So this is, let's say, after 2 years, we are launching a second phase on female entrepreneurship. And this is, I should say, when you find what you're interested in. And this is also, let's say, a project that we do a part-time. So it's not our full-time priority. And I'm also very lucky to work with my very good friend Mia. So this is also a very good opportunity to exchange our knowledge and also do what we really like. And when it comes to how did this go to the second stage, is that we have discovered that there are very few studies done on this in Japan, apart from the universities. So this is where we were inspired to look into, particularly looking into the case of Japan and seeing what can we actually learn from there? And is there something that we can take back to Europe? Because it doesn't necessarily mean that we have a lot of programs in Europe. That's true. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have everything 100%. So there must be something that we can learn in Japan and take back home to Europe. This is one of our thoughts. We hope that it can help contribute to that. And equally, if there are entrepreneurs who are thinking of starting in Japan, or maybe taking their products or developing their company further, it is also interesting to look into what kind of steps do they need to take.
Mm-hmm. And in general, we'll be glad to hear your final remarks and recommendations. What you would advise to the startups?
Yes, so it is like to be continued in Yokohama.
Yeah, this is great. So soon, hopefully, we will be gathered for World Congress in Japan, in Yokohama. And it will be a great place, as you mentioned, for international experience sharing, learning from each other. And mainly, this kind of events helps to network globally. When you learn, as you mentioned, from Japan, to bring that experience to Norway or to Europe or vice versa, creates good opportunities. Also, we have always some, maybe due to lack of information or misunderstanding, some prejudice. And now you see there's a shift and really great examples of female entrepreneurs moving forward with success stories. I saw there's a small business Japan podcast. Kyoko helped a lot with this content as well. I really appreciate. And some also Tokyo Center for Women, next Tokyo Acceleration Program. These are great initiatives that you may check and
Yes.
somehow help to understand better the culture, understand better the business opportunity, and also learn from these experiences to see how each country may boost their entrepreneurship ecosystem. It's very much needed to encourage especially young people to initiate new startups. One of main understanding or expectation is to receive support from government. What you mentioned was interesting. Actually, startups or entrepreneurs may find their own way to start and to receive the support. There are different players of the ecosystem. And furthermore, to be sustainable without governmental supports as well. Because government supports may not be equal every place, but we need entrepreneurs or new initiatives in every place. So this learning will be very important, I believe. Looking forward to hear your final report as well as the phase 2 report. I thank you once more for being here. I thank to Mia as well for her contribution to the activity. We hope in the future we may host both of you and evaluate all this journey together.
That would be really nice. And thank you very much for inviting me. And thank you very much for giving me opportunity to talk about this project. And of course, greetings and thanks to the audience. If anybody needs contacts during the project, we have met very many contacts and networks in Japan. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us.
They may reach you through your Gmail account, correct?
Yes,
email.
Yes, of course.
You may put that one as well in the chat room.
Yes, of course.
They may write you.
We can do that.
Perfect.
So drop me a line and I'll be glad to help. Always happy to connect people.
alma.karabek@gmail.com.
Yes.
I thank you once more. Thank you for being here. I thank to the audience. Looking forward for the final report and to be together in World Congress in Japan. It will be also a good opportunity to understand the culture, and maybe we will be very close to Tokyo, so it will be a good opportunity to pay visit to these partners or players, ecosystem players. I hope we will be benefiting a lot.
Me too.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for being here, Alma. Please keep in touch, stay safe, and hopefully we see each other very soon. I thank the participants. You may join to our Gingo Global platform for further communication. Next week we will be continuing to host webinar sessions, and hopefully every week we will have a guest to talk, to share from different parts of the world, learning from different experiences. You are welcome to be part of these sessions. Please take care and see you all hopefully soon.